guys, I'm here with Brittany Yunker of Bayside Bungalow, and Brittany built her own tiny house in what, 2009?
2008 and 2009, yeah.
Okay, and today she's going to tell us how she did it, why she did it, and a little bit of the story behind it. So welcome, Brittany.
Hey guys.
So do you want to just start out? Where'd you get this idea, and what drove you to kind of buy the plans and start building this thing?
hmm Well, I guess it all began when I graduated from college, and I kind of have this like everybody has this, oh my gosh, I'm graduated from college and I have to go, start my life now,
Yeah.
and then you kind of have this moment like, oh my God, that's right now. And
It's tough. Yeah, it's a tough
yeah.
transition.
So I had started working seasonal jobs after I graduated from college. Actually, I had started working seasonal jobs during college, kind of as a way to pay my way through college, and then that kind of morphed into then my job after I graduated. And so I had been working seasonal work in Alaska in the summertime in the fishing industry, and then I got a job down in Chile, also working in the fishing industry, but in the winter.
Huh.
Down there. So it was their summer, our winter. So I kind of had
Cool.
these jobs lined up, for 3 months in the summer, 3 months in the winter, and then kind of these awkward shoulder seasons where, I had graduated from college. I was, my mid, late 20s, and I was still coming home and landing on my parents' couch.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was too short of a period of time to, find my own place or move in somewhere. And it was easy enough just to move in with my parents. We get along great. But, I kind of started feeling like I needed a place to call my own.
Yeah, yeah.
But I didn't know where I was going to land. I didn't know where I was going to be in the future. And so I wanted my own place, but I also wanted to be a place that I could kind of take with me wherever I went. So then I, had heard about tiny houses through a few little things online and a newspaper clipping about Dee Williams, who lives here in Olympia where I live. And, the seed had been planted in several different kind of parts of my life. And then when I was actually met Dee, because she lives here in Olympia, it was easy enough I emailed her and asked her if I could come see her place just out of curiosity. And, when I met her, I expected to meet this, Amazon of a woman, and her muscles to be bulging out, and she can, hold a piece of plywood on her pinky or something. And I met her, and she's the sweetest, most humble woman, and very petite. And I just thought, like, wow, you don't have to be an Amazon to build a tiny house. Wow, she didn't really have any building background either. So I thought, oh, maybe I could actually do this. And
Wow.
kind of the reality of the prospect of doing it kind of set in. Okay, if I wanted to do this, I could. And then when I was in Chile one winter, I just had a lot of time to think on my own. I was where I was working, there wasn't a lot of like social interaction with people my age, so I just had a lot of time to kind of think about what I was going to do when I got home, and do a lot of research online about tiny houses, which at the time were very new. Like there weren't a lot of blogs about them. There weren't a lot of the answers that people can find now online.
Yeah.
They weren't readily available. So Tumbleweed Tiny House Company was the one company that was kind of doing the tiny house thing at the time. So I just thought, this is the perfect time for me to just say yes and do it. And so actually I purchased plans through Tumbleweed for the Tumbleweed Fensel. I purchased those online, and, like with a click, I had just spent a lot of money, and like I had decided I was going to do this.
So how much? I guess maybe the prices have changed, but aren't they like $600 or $500?
To be honest, I think it depends on the plan, but they are quite spendy, and at the time they were $1,000.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Were you like, what did I just do?
Yeah.
Do I really want to do this?
And I wouldn't, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's how much they were. And then with that was included a workshop. So I attended a
Okay.
workshop in Vancouver, BC, which is about 6 hours away.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, that's
after
like
that,
$300
yeah,
right
yeah.
there.
So
So that
probably,
kind of,
yeah, it worked out to like maybe 700, 300, something like that.
yeah.
And I also bought another thing that I did to like secure myself in this thought that I was going to build a tiny house was I bought the Dickinson stove, the little
Hmm.
Dickinson heater in the
Hmm.
tiny house. I purchased that online through Dickinson. I just like paid for it, and I called them and got a really great deal on a scratch and dent one. You probably
Okay.
didn't even notice that there was a scratch in it, but
No, I didn't. By the
so
way, readers, I stayed at, I rented Brittany's house for what, 2 nights, three
yeah.
days? So I actually experienced a great little house. Um, and hopefully we'll get into the construction details a little bit later, but it was very well built. So
Thank you.
it was. I was impressed. Um, so in the Dickinson heater, that's an RV component, right?
Yes. Actually, it's actually built to go in a boat.
Okay.
Um, that's primarily their market is boat supplies. And actually, some of the boats that I fished on in Alaska used their stoves, a different model, but
Okay.
the those stoves that we used in Alaska ran off of diesel. So
Okay.
the stove that I have runs off of propane.
So you knew they were legit, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they're on a fishing boat, they're probably good for a tiny house.
Yeah.
Um, so, and then I guess the stove, that's an RV um, component as well, or is that boat or RV? I know. I guess for readers who don't know, the tiny house industry kind of leans on getting quality appliances and components from some of the RV suppliers, right? And boat
Yeah.
suppliers.
Boats, pretty much anything that's mobile, whether it's, mobile on water, mobile on wheels,
Mm-hmm.
because, boats and RVs are kind of designed for smaller spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Um, by nature, they are smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, my pretty much the only thing that comes from a boating market or a boating company is the Dickinson
Mm-hmm.
heating stove. And then some of the RV components that I have in my house are the cooktop stove for
Mm-hmm.
cooking, the water heater, both of which run off of propane.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and actually the shower surround, kind of the shower stall itself,
Mm-hmm.
shower pan are built for an RV and are kind of the size that you would see in an RV.
Okay.
Um, and everything else is general home style,
Yeah.
purchased at Home Depot or whatnot, but
Yeah.
just kind of in a smaller size.
Yeah. Just cut the board in half instead of using.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I did notice the shower worked really well. Like it was smaller than I've ever seen, but it worked. And I put the curtain. I didn't get water all over the floor.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And that's what I found that it might feel it works, it might
hmm.
feel slightly uncomfortable or slightly smaller than you're used to, but it's
Hmm.
that's just what we're used to. It's not
Yeah.
bigger shower isn't something we need. It's just something that we've kind of become accustomed to in our culture.
Yeah. And I did notice after a couple days, like you kind of just flow through the space and it's not a big deal. It kind of becomes normal,
Mm.
Like you're like when I'm in the kitchen, the ceiling is right here.
Yeah.
It's just the new normal. So I think that people could, if they want the benefits, I don't think that you see. It's not such a shocker, forever. It becomes normal, but the benefits stay with you.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
definitely. I would agree with that.
so I guess if we could fast forward in your life, so what happened? You now rent it out.
Hmm. Well,
Um,
yeah, so kind of in a nutshell, yeah, I did. I just kind of took the plunge when I was abroad, and
mhm.
I came home when I arrived back in the United States. It was springtime, and
Mhm.
I had about a 3 month window before I was headed up to my next job in Alaska,
Mhm.
and just started working on it. And I didn't have any build history or build experience or much of anything other than shop class in 8th grade,
Okay. Well,
where
that's
I
something.
built a coat rack and a few little holes on a lathe. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm I'm good at like reading directions and learning on my own and learning from books and learning from diagrams. So
Hmm.
the fact that I had the plans helped me a lot.
Hmm.
And where the plans may have lacked a little bit of clarity or whatnot,
Hmm.
because at the time they were pretty basic plans.
Hmm.
I kind of had to make it up as I went. Go online, look up books. Books on building books. And I guess I don't have the book here with me. It's out at the tiny house, but there
Okay.
is it's
The tiny.
Building Construction Illustrated.
Okay, I saw that
There's
one.
several different editions of it, and I believe it's actually a textbook that's probably used in some construction classes.
Hmm.
That book helped me out a lot.
I think Francis D. Ching is the author. Yeah.
Yes, good memory.
Yeah.
Um, and so, pretty much I completed the build. I'd say half of the build in the spring, went back to work in Alaska, saved up some more money, and then completed the build in the fall
Hmm.
and lived in it for 2 happy years. I loved it. I lived in it on my parents' property in Olympia, Washington, where I grew
Hmm.
up. And it's just a beautiful location right on the water,
Yeah.
and very peaceful. And then, well, actually, while I was building the house, I was single when I started building the house, and kind of when I designed it, and figured out that, okay, for me I need a closet that's a bit this big, and for me I need
Yeah.
storage that's this size. And while I was building the house, I met my boyfriend, who we're still together, 3 years later.
Hmm.
um, and we just decided a couple of years ago that we were like, this is for both of us full time. This is not big enough. And so
Hmm.
we decided to move into kind of a slightly larger, small house. We live in downtown Olympia now and share
Hmm.
a two-bedroom place that, by most people's standards, is still very small. But to me, it seems like a mansion.
Huge. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But, I had several friends of mine approach me kind of when I was moving into this house where I live now, saying, oh, can I rent this from you? And so several different friends rented it while I was away in
Hmm.
Alaska the next year. And another friend rented it. We actually drove it down to Portland,
Hmm.
and she rented it for 9 months while she went to grad school down there. And she's actually a blogger as well. Her name's Lynna Menard. She has a blog called This Is the Little Life. Um,
Huh. Okay.
and she did some interesting blogs from the tiny house and kind of about her experiences living in the house. And but then the house came back to Olympia, and I kind of thought, well, wow, if there's this many people that would want to rent it out, for months at a time, I could probably make a business out of it and rent it out to
Hmm.
others. And especially since tiny houses are so new and somewhat secretive. A lot of
Yeah.
people that live in tiny houses aren't very public about them simply because you don't want to get caught or something. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I thought that there might be people that would want to see one and kind of see it to believe it and test drive it
It
before.
kind of was for me, see it to believe it. Like I got out of the car and I kind of walked, I walked across and I kind of like put my hand on it. I was like, it's real.
Yeah,
It, I don't know why that is, but it's just you don't see them. It's kind of a weird concept.
yeah.
You see hundreds nowadays. You see hundreds of pictures on the internet, but there was kind of a moment there.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And before you buy a house, of course you go in the house, you see how it feels, what it looks like inside before you buy a car, you test
Hmm.
drive it, see if you fit in the seat and the space fits you and your body. And
Hmm.
it's just, I think it's really important that people that are considering downsizing, whether it's to a tiny house or to live on a
Hmm.
boat or to a smaller apartment, it's like, how much space do you really need, and can you really feel comfortable in 165 square feet?
Yeah, yeah, and especially I think because they're not only a lot of these people are going to pay cash, right, and put their own labor. So I mean, it's a big decision,
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
than just kind of signing a mortgage paper or whatever. I mean, it's like you're really it becomes your new project for the next year, or
Yeah.
how long would you say most people are taking to build these?
It really depends on whether or not you have the luxury of working on it full time,
Hmm.
or you're kind of, working your full time job already and working it on the weekends, and how much help you're getting with it, or if you're having someone build it for you. But
Hmm.
for me, not having any build experience, and kind of working on it, 8 to 12 hours a day
Wow.
while I was working on
Don't
it.
scare the readers.
Yeah, it probably took me about, I usually tell people it took about 5 months to complete.
Wow.
But
Golly.
that was just me. Like, really, I had only a few helpers. A family
Hmm.
friend offered to do some of the more professional jobs, like the
Hmm.
plumbing, the electrical, and the gas lines. And
Hmm.
then I had another friend that installed the roofing material that I had purchased. So
Okay.
kind of I I asked for help on the things that could kill me. Um,
Yeah. 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 You don't want the house to explode from a.
yeah, yeah, and I also didn't want the house to leak, which is why I hired a professional to do the roof.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was a lot of just me working on it,
Hmm.
pounding nails and working piece by piece on it.
So I kind of wanted to ask you, was there a point where you just kind of got sick of it, or you're like, or was it kind of like a new challenge every day, or were there days when you're like, all right, I'm not gonna hammer any nails today, I'm going to the beach or something?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I mean, definitely, I think I consciously gave myself breaks. I would
mhm.
take, a weekend here or there, or just take a day off and completely, not even go to the build site at
Yeah.
all, which was completely necessary to keep my sanity. But
Hmm.
I did also take, in the middle of it, I took like a 2 week trip to Mexico. Um, that was a great way to just kind of clear my mind and not have to think about anything and
Hmm.
not have internet access.
Yeah.
That was great. And which is actually where I got the sink as well. The
Yeah. Very
sink that's in
nice.
the house now. Got it in a little market in Mexico. But
Cool.
I definitely got burnt out towards the end.
Hmm.
The hardest part, I think anybody that's done any sort of renovation in their own home or worked on a project that's kind of like in your own surrounding, whether or not you own your own home, if you've painted your bedroom or something,
Hmm.
it's hard to do a project in a space where you live. And it came a point where I wasn't completely done with the house, but I needed to move into it. And then it was hard, living in a space that you knew was not finished, and just
Yeah.
kind of coming home from work, because I didn't, I went back to work, and then ended up getting a job, and real
Hmm.
job. But still, the house wasn't completely done, and so to move into the house and have just this nagging feeling there were like these unfinished things, the trim wasn't done around the window or the curtains weren't up yet.
Hmm.
I remember my boyfriend saying to me one day, he's like, you're gonna have to move the bucket of tools out from underneath the table underneath the table one of these days. Like, it's gonna have to go, and you're just gonna have to say, "We're done." Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
So I guess you wanted to get to that just feeling where you felt you could stop. But
yeah, yeah, definitely. And to a point, nothing's ever going to be perfect.
yeah.
There's always going to be something left to change. But finally it got to the point where I was like, okay, this is home, and a few little things here and there I'm going to work on and put on the to-do list and the back burner. But
Hmm.
uh, it was a mental challenge. It was a big mental challenge towards the end, and it took a lot of perseverance, but it paid off in the end.
So after you moved in, did you said just curtains and just a few odds and ends, and did you have to decide that you were gonna be okay with it being slightly incomplete, or you just had to kind of hang on?
Well, it was actually kind of a funny story. When I was building the house, I had the luxury of not living in it for most of the build. I
Hmm.
was still living with my parents in their spare room,
Hmm.
and they actually had house guests that I didn't know were arriving in, like the second week of January, and,
Oh man.
so one week, like a week before these people show up, it might have even been a few days before they showed up. My parents were like, "Oh, so they're coming in a
You have a
couple in
house
days.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you might want to like put your stuff up there." And I just kind of had a minor freak out moment, because I think at the time I didn't even have running water in the tiny house yet,
Hmm.
and so I was imagining myself waking up in the morning at 6:30, and it's January, and it's freezing rain in Olympia, and walking down to the house, which is like 300 feet away, in my bathrobe to like shower with guests in the house.
Yeah.
So it wasn't my choice to move out quite when I did, but it definitely gave this kind of urgency
Hmm.
to the situation, and it made me complete the house that much more quickly.
Yeah. Well, whatever it takes, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Good, good. So, so for the 2 years that you lived there, so I guess you said while you were building it, you met your boyfriend. So, did you ever actually live in the house when it was just you?
But the whole time that I lived in the house, it was just me. And then
Okay,
I moved out when we decided to kind of combine households.
okay, okay.
And the house was perfect for me, and there's a little reading nook and the
Mhm,
eating table, which doubles kind of as a desk.
mhm.
But there were times when he would come over, and of course we would share a meal, we'd cook together, and
Was it
what.
kind of clumsy with two people? Like, I mean, he may have not been used to the space, but were there some moments when you like he comes out of the bathroom and you knock into him in the kitchen?
Oh
Or
yeah, definitely.
okay,
There's just barely enough room in the kitchen to kind of like have two people like slide by each other. But we
hmm
got pretty proficient at cooking, and moving around each other. And oh yeah, there were definitely awkward moments where you're coming down the ladder and you just like about you know kick somebody's hat
yeah.
off.
Okay, so here's kind of a I don't know if you want to talk about this, but the loft bed. So,
While we're talking about boyfriends.
well, it was very comfortable for me as one person, but as you move towards the sides, you have this sloping roof.
Yeah.
You know, is that okay for two people, or do you just kind of like have to snuggle in the middle? I mean, did anybody kind of wake up and hit their head on the ceiling or?
Oh, I think definitely at first I kind of a few times would like roll over and kind of like whack my head on the side of the wall, but and when you're getting out of bed you kind of have to like you can't sit up together. You can't sit up together. One person can sit up in the middle of the house, but or in the middle like right underneath the roof.
So you kind of have to snake your way out a little
Yeah,
bit.
but I mean, actually, we both my boyfriend and I are very avid campers and
hmm
backpackers, and have spent a lot of time out in the wilderness in tents, and so I think for us it's kind of just natural to kind of like
hmm
have to crawl over each other to get in a bed or something.
Yeah.
Um, but for people that are larger or reduced mobility or something, it's definitely not the easiest thing to get in and out of bed. And,
hmm
it always sucks when you have to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom or something.
hmm
To
hmm
walk all the way down the ladder. But, more and more I've seen ways of, very creative ways of building a tiny house that kind of get around that issue of building a Murphy bed on the first floor, or,
Yeah.
bed that's not so high up. It's maybe like 3 feet or 4 feet off the ground instead of, all the way up above your head.
Yeah. And I
Um,
think I've seen some where they have a little like it's a gable roof, and then they have like a little kick out right where you sleep up there,
yeah. Yeah.
with like little gables, I guess, that go off to the side.
Dormers. Yeah, dormers.
Dormers, yeah. And so I guess
Uh,
that would give you a little bit more room. Maybe not your legs, but your
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I've never been in one like that, but the photos definitely um, seem like it gives it a lot more space. I chose not to do it because I really liked the look of the kind of the
Yeah.
A-frame roof line,
Yeah.
and also without any building experience, and the plans that I had didn't have any addition for
hmm
dormers like that. I kind of just thought, I don't know what I would be getting myself into to change that. So for
Yeah.
me, my first build, I just thought, I'm just going to stick with the kind of the simple roof.
And I think that no, I think your house design. I mean, this is really appealing. People really like that gable roof, and I think that's kind of tiny houses in general. I think that's why they're out of all the alternative home types, they're I don't know what your experience was, but they seem to be more accepted because they look like a house. Like they have the little triangle at the top, and
Yeah,
so people just see it and they're like, "Oh, that's a house." It's the universal symbol for house, that
yeah,
gable, and so it
yeah,
kind of passes the test. Like it's outside the box, but it's like it's just familiar enough where it won't offend too many people.
yeah. It's the cute factor, I think.
Yeah,
Really, it's definitely puts tiny houses more in favor, I think, than the Winnebago from 1970 and some of these
yeah,
stuff.
all the sheet metal. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, well, I guess with that said, in Olympia, I know Olympia is kind of a big hub for, and maybe Portland as well.
Hmm.
Has the attitude changed in town as far as I know? You actually on your guest survey, you said, would you be okay with this tiny house on a urban lot in Olympia or in town? Is
Yeah.
that being more accepted there or?
I think it is. Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, still, I mean, just as a generalization, tiny houses are still, you know, would probably still be considered illegal in the city of Olympia.
Okay.
Um, for the general kind of rules or coding reasons why they're generally illegal in most cities is,
Hmm.
um, I believe, and I'm not sure about all of this, but that in Olympia still, you have to, if it's on wheels, it's considered an RV, and it has
Hmm.
to be, it cannot be inhabited for longer than 30 days at a time.
Which
And so,
is ridiculous.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I understand the reasons behind that because how do you classify the difference between a tiny house and an ugly, rusted out Winnebago with
Yeah.
just 7 cousins living in it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it's hard to kind of make the differentiation. Like, oh, this one's okay, but this one isn't. So,
Yeah.
um, but, as far as I think now that tiny houses are becoming more popular, a lot of people here in Olympia know about them, have seen them, and kind of understand how they work and how they work differently than RVs in the sense that a lot of them use solar power. My house
Hmm.
does not use solar power, but a lot of them can use solar power very easily.
Because of the reduced demand, right? They don't need that much electricity.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. A lot of people have figured out, a way to create like a dry well or a French drain to kind of disperse the gray water that's coming out of the house, and
Hmm.
and a lot of them are composting their human waste,
Hmm.
and so I don't know hardly any RVs that can, there are a few, but I don't know very many RVs that
So this is like
use
RV
those.
2.0. This is
Yeah, so I think
advanced
now that
advanced
people realize
technology.
that, yeah, now that people are realizing that, hey, like this is, doing good for the environment and it
Hmm.
isn't an eyesore and it's a way that we can reduce our footprint, I think people are kind of starting to see the benefits and
Hmm.
how they potentially outweigh kind of the negatives, which are,
Hmm.
the fact that it's increasing density. Well, some people would see that as a negative and a
Yeah.
positive.
Some people just see change as a as a negative.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, it's different.
yeah,
What's gonna
but
happen?
I'm so surprised how many people have tiny houses here in Olympia. And, I just called up a woman to ask her about, she does house cleaning. And I was just calling her to ask if she had time to do some house cleaning.
Hmm.
So we started talking about tiny houses and she's like, oh, I live in a tiny house. And I was like,
Really?
what? So,
Wow.
um, there, I would say the culture all along the West Coast is very
Yeah.
open and accepting of all of that. And,
Hmm.
so it's exciting. It's really exciting.
That is exciting. So, um, I wanted to touch on the RV thing because I know there have been some developments. Bless you. There have been some developments. I think I read this on the Tumbleweed blog, but they said you can get it insured as an RV now, and I think maybe you can get a loan, like an RV loan, to build one.
I
Is
think
that?
so. Yeah, and that I don't know too much about, the requirements on certain um, structures becoming an RV. I do know that
Mm-hmm.
if it's going to be if it's going to be classified as an RV for a loan and for insurance purposes,
Mm-hmm.
it has to be certified in that manner as well and be
Mm-hmm.
given certification from Department of Licensing or Department of Transportation. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure.
I
Um,
think in the Tumbleweed plans, I think they said their new plans, or maybe Jay Schaefer's Four Lights Tiny Houses, they're certified by whoever was supposed to certify them.
yeah.
I think I read that they're certified now. Like
Yes.
if you build.
Yeah, well, if you build it on your own, as I understand it, you would still their plans kind of lay out how to build it so that it would be certifiable.
Okay.
But you would still have to have kind of an inspector or somebody come in and say, yes, like, here you go.
Oh, okay.
Good job. Like, you did it. And
Okay.
in the state of Washington, I don't know the specifics, but I do know through Dee, actually, I heard her mention this to someone that unfortunately, our laws are more restrictive here
Hmm.
on RV certification in Washington state. And so um, there's a few more hoops you have to go through. And I think right now, Tumbleweed is not able to certify their RVs in the state of Washington.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, California, yes, and many other states, but not Washington yet.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Okay. Um, I just want to say one thing. I mentioned the RV, but readers, don't get a loan. It's affordable enough. Just build it. Just build it yourself. Um, Save up. Don't get the loan. It's out there, but you don't need it.
Yeah.
Just wanted to say that I am trying to get away from the over reliance on credit. So, and I think the tiny house is a great way to do that. Do you think that uh, financially for people, do you think this is a great way for them to get ahead? Maybe if they're single or compared to a mortgage. I mean, you lived in it and then you turned it into an income source.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like a win. No matter how you slice it, you kind of it's helped you get ahead financially, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you asked kind of if I got burnt out in the middle of the build, and um, I remember thinking when I was probably three-quarters of the way done with the house, oh my God, what if I don't like it, or what if I don't want this anymore? And I just thought, well, worst comes to worst, I'll sell it, and I'll
Yeah.
sell it for the cost of what I just put in it. I can't really quantify in a monetary value my labor and whatnot, but
Hmm.
you know, but yes, from a financial standpoint, I lived in it for 2 years, so you can consider that rent foregone for
Hmm.
2 years that I was living in it. I might have been paying $600 to rent a room in a house with some housemates or something if I
Hmm.
had lived in Olympia. So right there, that's seven-ish thousand dollars or something.
Hmm.
And at the end, yeah, I could have sold it. I could have, and I did. It was actually very easy just to rent it out to friends while I was away, kind of on a short-term lease type situation. So
Hmm.
um, it's mobile and it's kind of transferable. So you can have friends live in it or put it up for rent. And I know several people that have bought tiny houses and not they've been in a financial situation to buy a tiny house, but they
Hmm.
weren't quite ready to move out of their house yet, and so they
Hmm.
just parked it in their own backyard and rented it out for the summer or a year or so until they were ready to downsize to it, and it worked pretty well for them as well.
Huh. Okay. That's a good option. Um, so the yard there at your tiny house is beautiful, and I don't know if it blooms like that all year, but when I was there,
Oh, you were there in the springtime, yeah, yeah,
okay, so everything was apple trees, fig trees, or at least one fig tree,
yep.
bees everywhere. I mean, how vital is it for people to have a nice yard like that? I mean, did you have to get out of the house and just like I got to get out of here and walk around the yard? What if you didn't have a nice yard or were less space than that? Do you think
Yeah.
you could?
Um, for me, so, I'm here in Olympia, Washington, and so you're right. In the summertime, it's beautiful. It was really neat to be able to kind of move my living room into the outside. So I would, use a chair outside or set up a table and, I wouldn't cook outside, but maybe I might have dinner outside or
Hmm.
whatnot. And definitely, I mean, when you're living in 165 square feet, I never felt, cramped inside the house, but
Hmm.
obviously it's always nice to get out and breathe the fresh air
Yeah.
and have a little more space.
In any
Uh,
house, really, too. Anybody wants to just kind of get out, so that makes sense.
yeah, and in the wintertime it does rain a lot here, and
Hmm.
while the flowers might not be blooming and whatnot, it's always green here. So it is year round. It's beautiful if you don't mind the rain.
Hmm.
But for me, it was really important to kind of um, or one thing that I think kind of enriched my life when I was living in the tiny house was the um, the way that I was kind of forced to use my community as extensions of my house.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't have, or I don't currently have internet access, and I did not have internet at my house when I lived in it. And so,
Hmm.
if I needed to respond to some emails, I would, after work, find a coffee shop downtown and,
Hmm.
spend a couple of hours on the internet. And I might run into a friend, and then we go out to dinner afterwards. So, you know, it wasn't I didn't have this feeling of like, oh my gosh, I'm stuck in this house and it doesn't have everything that I need because
Hmm.
in the community I have everything I need.
Hmm.
Some people don't have, showers in their house, so it's, might use the local YMCA or have a membership at a gym or something. And one thing that I did miss that was kind of a change for me, especially living there in the winter, was not being able to have friends over for dinner and for meals. I mean, I could have a few friends over,
Hmm.
um, but I had maybe 4 or 5 people over for dinner around that little table, and it was squishy, but it
Yeah.
was
I
fun.
think I saw photos of that. Or
Yeah,
yeah.
probably, probably.
Yeah.
But if I did want to have dinner with friends, and a lot of friends, we'd just go out to dinner at a restaurant, and so
Yeah.
that was like an extension of my dining room there, sharing it at a restaurant, and with the money that I was saving by not paying rent, I could easily afford a dinner out here and there.
Yeah. And I think Jay Schaefer said something similar. He said that, I don't pay a lot to live here, and so if I want to rent out the Holiday Inn once a
Yeah,
year, I can rent the whole thing. It's like,
yeah.
yeah, like it works.
Yeah, and Dee and I kind of laugh about, because we both have the beds in our loft, and then the toilet is down below, and we're
Hmm.
joking, well, if we ever get sick or something, it's like not very fun to have to crawl down the
Yeah.
stairs really fast in the middle of the night when you need to run to the bathroom. But yeah, for that amount of money, just yeah, go rent the Holiday Inn, and you can
Yeah. Yeah.
you can be on the same level as your toilet all night long.
Yeah.
I would, I think I have receipts totaling about like 16 grand, and then I had to
Okay.
make another thousand or so of repairs on the trailer afterwards because I guess one of your questions, or one thing that I would recommend to folks is people always say, what would you do differently, or um, and I definitely think that there are ways to cut costs and there are ways to reuse materials, which I'm totally down with.
Hmm.
But one thing that I wish I would have done in the first place was I wish I would have bought a brand new trailer.
Really.
Um, at the very first part of the build, I really wanted to. I wasn't sure how much it was going to cost. I really wanted to save money and
Hmm.
kind of penny pinch as much as I could. I'm a pretty thrifty person, but
Uh-huh.
um, what I did is I ended up buying a trailer on. Hi. Okay, bye. He's the reason I don't live in the tiny house anymore.
Okay. We got the full story now.
Yeah.
We'll leave him in the interview. I'll leave him in the video.
um, but I bought a Craigslist trailer, a trailer on Craigslist that
Okay.
was in fairly good condition. It had been used for about a year. It just had a little bit of rust on it, and the axles were in good condition. But I got it home and I ripped the decking out and put in brand new decking. I found out when I got the trailer home that the trailer boards, the decking boards were rotten.
Oh
So
no.
I had to rip all of those out, put in new treated decking, and then I built my house on top of it. And I had the house completely done, and we were ready to. It was actually the very first move, the maiden voyage, and we were headed to Portland to take the house down where my friend Lyndon was going to work on it, which
Hmm.
is about 2 hours away on the highway. And I thought, I'm going to take this to the trailer shop. There's a trailer shop only like 5 miles away. I'm going to have him like look at it, make sure everything's lubricated, and just double check the tires. And
Hmm.
as soon as we got out on the road, the tires were doing this like wobbly,
Oh
wobbly.
no.
I was like, oh my gosh, what have I done? I built this
Oh
whole house
man.
on this foundation that it is like permanently affixed to, and the foundation is not looking so hot.
Wow.
So I drove it into the trailer shop, and the guy took one look at it, and first of all, I was like, "What the heck is that?" And that's my house. And
That's funny.
And then he says, "Where'd you get this trailer?" And I said, "Well, I got it on Craigslist." He said, "How come you didn't buy a trailer from me?" And I said, "Well, because I got a good deal on this." He's like, "Okay, well, these are not trailer tires. These are car tires."
Huh. Okay, so
So,
there's a difference.
naive girl, I didn't know that there was a difference between passenger vehicle tires and trailer tires. And so the tires that I had purchased with this used trailer were they didn't have sidewalls at all on them. So they were just kind of lobbing out on, just they were not rigid. And
So they're not made to carry the same weight that a trailer tire would be? Is that what it
apparently,
is?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. They said they were rated to the route correct weight, but for some reason they were just completely not stable. And so $800 later, I had, brand new correct tires and completely lubricated, undercarriage and everything. But so that's why I say, my materials and receipts and whatnot going into the house are about 16 grand, but I think I spent about 17 on the trailer
Okay.
and everything because I had to add on another almost $1,000 in repairs afterwards. But now it's great.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
And I did use a lot of kind of recycled materials as much as I could, or materials that I got from friends that were kind of grabbed out of dumpsters and things for free on the side of the road.
really, it looked pretty new to me. Everything looked so. Just you got lumber and stuff out.
Well, there were just random boards, like all of the bathroom, all of the walls in there, the kind of the board that was the wall board in there is a different type than the rest of the house.
Oh,
You might
okay.
not have even noticed, but I only had so much of this wall board that my friend Dee Williams, actually had scavenged out of, like, they were renovating some restaurant in town or something, and she
Hmm.
was just like driving by the dumpster and like saw that there was these boards just sticking out, so she grabbed them all, and she just had enough for the square footage that I needed for my bathroom.
Hmm.
um, and the decking underneath the nook is pretty much an old futon bed, that like frame that had been ripped apart, and so I just cut
Really? That
slats
was
down.
really nice. I remember the quality of that wood. Okay, so that was used. See,
Yeah,
readers, you can reclaim isn't always a bad deal. Some really nice stuff. Actually,
yeah.
there's a guy in Huntsville here, north of Houston. He builds entire houses out of. His name's Dan Phillips. Entire houses out of reclaimed. Like, I guess like 100% of them are reclaimed materials, and they're really cool. So I think,
Yeah.
and you can save money, and I think that's a growing trend too.
Mm,
It's becoming
yeah.
more. You have to be a
It's
little more creative, I guess. Like you
Yeah.
said, you only had so much. You had to decide where to put it.
Right, right. And there's things too that I think are important to try to, economize on, and one thing you can save money on is definitely materials, but
Hmm.
some of the things that I think definitely, buy new or buy high quality, because it might be regrettable later, would be,
Yeah.
the chiller, a good skylights, if you're going to do skylights, and good
Hmm.
windows, I think are really important for the longevity of the house,
Hmm.
especially in a place like Washington where we get a lot of rain. It's really important to keep the house dry.
Yeah.
And the roof as well. I'm really happy that I had like complete all new materials, and that I spent a little more money to hire a professional to install it.
Hmm.
Um, and finally, I wish I would have kind of upgraded the water heater.
Okay.
I kind of penny pinched on that, and I thought, no, I'm just going to get a small tank RV water heater that holds 6 gallons, because it's fairly inexpensive. But when you're taking a shower, 5 minutes is okay.
Hmm.
But sometimes there's just like that one time you
You
really
had a
wish you'd
bad
take
day.
like 2 minutes.
You need that therapeutic shower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, the very first water heater that I bought used on Craigslist. It was the exact same model as the one that is in there now.
Hmm.
Um, and I thought it was such a great deal. It was like $50 on Craigslist. This guy was selling it, and I paid cash, brought it home, and I the seal, like the cap,
Hmm.
the plug was pretty much missing. So he's like, "Oh, you can just buy a new plug online. Just go to any RV store and you can get that." well, when I was kind of looking into the plug to see which kind of what threading it was and whatnot, I noticed that there was just something kind of rattling inside of the water heater, and I hadn't installed it yet, but and I got a flashlight, and inside the water heater was a giant rat's nest.
Oh my
Mice had moved
goodness.
into
Wow.
mice had moved into it, and there was hair and fabric and bits of cardboard and all sorts of stuff in this
Were there
water heater.
mice still in there?
There were no mice still, but there were
Okay,
signs
good.
of mice still in it. And so yeah, all of every single thing that I could try to get in there to like extract the different the pieces of.
Oh my
I,
god.
I couldn't do it. I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna throw this away. This is not gonna work. This is the water heater for my house. I need something that will work for a while. I don't want to have to replace it in another year. So
Yeah.
I ended up just
You just
buying a
scrap the
brand new.
whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
maybe we could say it's a good idea to moving parts, things that have moving parts or heat up and cool down and have
yeah,
maybe
definitely.
get those new.
I would think so. Or else, if you have a good knowledge of how things work and you're into, fixing things,
Hmm.
by all means. But for me and my, I don't have a lot of mechanical knowledge, so it was important for me to have something that I wouldn't have to go back and redo in another
Yeah.
year or fix.
Yeah.
So.
But again, I mean, at 17 grand, I mean, it's so affordable.
Mhm.
Of course, you're paying for it all up front, which most people don't do with their houses. But
Mhm.
still, I mean, it just seems very attainable, even if you buy the best and
Yeah.
to do this.
I've just recently, just because so many people email me with questions
Hmm.
and kind of insight into my process in building and how I did it and what I went through, I've started to kind of offer consultations and whatnot to folks because I think there's so many people out there that have questions that I honestly don't have time to respond to all of the questions. So
Hmm.
I've started to set up kind of a consultation system where I can chat with people online or over the phone and help them out with, their design ideas or just ideas on how it all works and how all the pieces fit together.
Hmm. So if people want to hire you as a consultant, do they do that through baysidebungalow.com or?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
I've set up
Okay.
a new page there, and they can definitely get in touch with me and let me know what you're looking for.
Okay. Okay. Awesome.
Um, I just think that if any of your readers are out there and they're thinking about kind of living smaller, and whether that's a tiny house or just moving from a 4-bedroom house into a 2-bedroom house or
Hmm.
4-bedroom house to a 3-bedroom house.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, for me and my experience and the people that I know that have moved into tiny houses, um, just do it. It took me like literally kind of closing my eyes and clicking the mouse, buying some plans to just be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this.
Huh.
Um, I mean, it's totally cliche, but just do it. Just do it. And there's going to be so many questions that you're going to have, or that people will have of you if if you're building one, and that can really kind of wear for me, it definitely wore at my nerves. People asking so many questions
Hmm.
and kind of in their asking questions, I felt that they were doubting me and the doubting that I could do it and doubting that my plan could actually work. And um, just with perseverance and
And
hard work, saving a lot of money, it pays off and it's totally attainable.
so when you say saving a lot of money, is that saving a lot of money up to do this or saving a lot of money after you've done it and you're not paying rent anymore?
Yeah.
Or
No, for me
both?
it was saving money up front, definitely.
Okay.
Is that I had to do to complete the build, and but I have definitely been able to save money more quickly now that I don't have as many overhead
Yeah.
costs.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So you would say, I guess, to add on to what you just said, maybe this is a growth experience for people as far as not only just construction and maybe for some people what you can build, what you're capable of, but just the learning experience that your life doesn't end when you don't have like a 4,000 square foot house, and it maybe even gets better.
Yeah.
Is that maybe a lesson that, or just people learning about themselves by doing this?
Mhm. I I would definitely agree with that.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And if anybody wants to experience a tiny house, you can definitely come visit in Olympia.
Well,
By all means.
I'll definitely put. I can put your website and anybody. It's a great experience, and it doesn't cost a whole lot. It's a beautiful place, beautiful town, um, and I'm sorry, baysidebungalow.com,
Okay.
and we'll put that below the video or in the video as well. Um, well, Brittany, thank you. I guess I should let you go live the rest of your evening here. And can I contact you again if I have more questions for the
Oh,
book?
you yeah, definitely. Definitely. Let me know if you have any questions. And yeah, thank you for your time as well. I enjoyed chatting with you.
Sure, sure. I enjoyed it. Well, all right. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks. Bye,
Okay.
Ross.
Bye.
Bye.